Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing on with our discussion of Mumuksupadi by Pila Lokacharya with the commentary by Manavalabha Munigal. And we are in the third prakaranam, the third part of the book, which is about the Charma Sloka, Krishna Charma Sloka. Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Suchaha. So up until now, the first half of the verse we've discussed, and we've also discussed the word aham. The second part of the verse starts with aham tva sarva papebhyo. So tva is the next word that we're going to be discussing. Tva, of course, means you in Sanskrit. So let's have a look at the text. And anybody who wants these texts, right, they can just contact me on WhatsApp and or at the email address on the YouTube video, and I can send you these texts and you can go through yourself as you go through the video. So we talked about aham, and now we're talking about tva. So it says after this he presents the second word tva, meaning you, and its meaning. So sutra number 248. Tva, you who being ignorant, unable, and unworthy. So what it means is, have resorted to me as an upaya. The word upaya again in Sanskrit means the means. The means to what? The means to liberation. So the Lord himself, Sriman Narayana, in this case Lord Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita, is saying that he himself is the means to our liberation. That we should simply surrender to him alone, and he will guide us to moksha, to liberation, to freedom from the cycle of birth and death in this material world. So what to elaborate the meaning of tva, or the meaning of you in this case means us, the people who are surrendering to Lord Krishna. So he says, agya means ignorant. So gya, the word gya in Sanskrit, or jnana, means knowledge. So agya means the opposite of knowledge, without knowledge or ignorant. Then we have ashakta. Ashakta means unable. Somebody who is shakti means power, or shakta means power. So somebody who has no power whatsoever is ashakta. So agya, ashakta, and aprapta. Prapta means to obtain, right? So here it's translated as unworthy, or unable to attain the goal, right? Aprapta. So agya, ashakta, and aprapta. So these are adjectives which are being used to describe us. This is what we are. We are completely helpless. So in the process of surrender to God, in the process of surrender to the Supreme Lord Sriman Narayana, right? We have to come to the realization that we are totally dependent upon the Lord. He is supporting us, he is controlling us, and he is uplifting us. Everything is because of him, and nothing is because of us. We have no way to save ourselves. So the example is given just like a baby kitten, a little cat. Baby kitten is helpless until the mother comes along and picks it up and saves it. There is no effort by the baby that can save itself. The mother has to come and pick up the baby. So this means, right, Madhavala Mamuni's commentary on this means you who lack the wisdom to know how to do the work of saving yourself. So first of all, God has to save us because we don't have the knowledge. We don't have some people feel that by studying the scriptures, or that they can somehow get enough knowledge that they can save themselves. They can bring themselves to moksha, bring themselves to liberation. There's a saying in Sanskrit, jnanam mokshaha, or jnanat mokshaha. From knowledge comes liberation. So the idea is that if we study enough scriptures, then somehow or other we'll become advanced in spiritual life and we'll attain liberation. Right? We may become jivan muktas or something. This is the idea. We may get liberation even in this lifetime. But here, what Krishna is trying to say to us is that by using the word twa, the meaning of the word twa here, the first meaning is that you are ignorant. You should know that you're ignorant. You should know that you lack enough wisdom or enough knowledge to save yourself. You don't have that. So this means you who lack the wisdom to know how to do the work of saving yourself. So one reason why we can't save ourselves and why we have to appeal to God to save us, to Lord Krishna to save us, is that we cannot save ourselves. We don't have enough knowledge. Okay, so then you who, even if you did know, lack the ability to do it successfully. This is the ashakta part, unable. So even if we did have that knowledge, which we don't have enough knowledge to save ourselves or to go to liberation, right? That's why we have to surrender to God. So even if we did have enough knowledge, we don't have the capacity. We don't have the strength to do it. We don't have the strength either to do it. So let's say we did have enough knowledge. We studied all the scriptures and we came to the right conclusions. Still, we're unable to do it because we're weak. We're weak human beings trapped in a material body in this material world, and therefore we have to take the strength of God. He's all powerful. Lord Krishna is all powerful, the Supreme Person. So we have to take his strength to save us. So we're ignorant, we're weak, and so what else does it say here? So even if you did know, you lack the ability to do it successfully, to save yourself successfully. You who, even if you were able, right? So even if you knew, and even if you were able, you do not have the right to save yourself. You do not have the right to save yourself. You do not have, even if you know how to save yourself, even if you have some ability, right? You actually do not have the right to, because as described in the Upanishads, the Supreme Lord is within everyone's heart, just like, and the soul is also there. So we have the soul and we have the super soul, the Atman or the Jivatman and the Paramatman. So the Lord is there within everyone, and he is acting as, he is giving permission for us to do different things. So we are, in the Upanishads it says, the body is like a tree. It's like a green tree with green leaves, and there are two green birds in that tree. So one bird is the soul, is the Atman, the individual Jivatman, and one soul is the super soul, is the Paramatman, is the Supreme, right? Sriman Narayana or Lord Krishna in this sense. So that super soul is going around with us. He's a witness to all of our activities, and he allows us to perform different activities. So we desire to do something, and the super soul permits that to be done. He actually is the doer. If we read the whole Bhagavad Gita, we realize in the Bhagavad Gita, it states that there are five causes of action. One of them is the soul. The soul desires to do things, and therefore he causes action. But there are also these other things that have to be there for the action to be performed. One of those things is the permission of the super soul. He is our master. We are like the servant. So the servant may know what to do, right? The servant or the slave may know what to do, right? He may know what to do. He may even have the ability to do it, but without the order of the master, he cannot do it. So this is the third point, that we don't have the order from God to do it. Or God is not telling us that you have the right to give yourself liberation or to free yourself, because we are completely under his control, right? So that's why here, Malavala Mamuni and Pilalokacharya, great acharyas in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, right? They are saying that all of this information is there, given here in that one little word, twa, which means you. That you are ignorant, you're unable, and you're unworthy, right? That you have no knowledge, you don't have the knowledge to save yourself, you don't have the ability to save yourself, and you don't have the permission from the master, the Lord, to save yourself. Okay. So even if you were able, you do not have the right to save yourself. You, who in the light of this have relinquished all dharmas, right? This is taking us back to the first part of the verse, The first part of the verse is Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Parityaja means having completely abandoned, having completely given up. Sarva Dharmam means all dharmas. But what does it mean? It means all self-efforts to save ourselves. Having given up all the idea that we can save ourselves by our own efforts, right? Therefore, that person who has relinquished all dharmas and taken me alone as the upaya, as the means to liberation, which needs nothing else. So God is what we call the siddhopaya. He's the completely perfect means to liberation, right? Because he needs nothing else to help him, right? So this is the meaning of the word. This is the meaning of the word tva. Now, after this, he's going to present the third word, sarvapapebhyo. So that was the meaning of the word tva. So just again, the last sentence here. So you who, in light of this, in light of the fact that you are ignorant and you are incapable and you are also have no permission, right, to save yourself, right? In light of those things, you have, however, relinquished all other methods of effort, all other paths of effort like karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga, which are also taught in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says he's taught all these different ways, but actually we are unable to do these ways, right? So therefore we simply surrender to Krishna in the Charma Sloka, and he becomes the means. He becomes the means. So we have relinquished all other paths of self-effort or dharmas, and we have taken Krishna alone as the means to our liberation, right? As Krishna says, so sarvadharma parityaja and mam ekam sharanam vraja. Sharanam vraja means to go to mentally to realize that we are that surrender to God. Sharanam means surrender. Mam ekam. Krishna says mam ekam, to me alone. Ekam means alone, myself, one. And mam means myself, right? So mam ekam. So surrender to me alone. And he needs nothing else. So that is the meaning of tva. That is the meaning of tva. Now, we have another commentary by P.B. and Angacharya of Kanchipuram on this particular word tva in the Charma Sloka, which means you. And so let's look quickly at that other commentary. So here is the commentary, Mumuksupadi Dipika of P.B. and Angacharya on the word tva. Right, the explanation of the word tva takes up two sutras here. It was in one sutra in the other book, okay, but it's the same sutras. So P.B. and Angacharya says, now the meaning of tva. So in Charma Sloka, again, Sarvadharma Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. That's the first part of the verse or the sloka. The second part is tva. Aham tva sarvapapebhyo mokshisham vimassacha. So we dealt with the ham last time. Now we're talking about tva. So the word tva means you in Sanskrit. So now the meaning of tva is explained. It means you who do not have the knowledge to understand your actions, do not understand your actions to the actions that are needed for you to do to attain liberation. Even if you had the knowledge, you who do not have the power to complete them, so you're unable to complete them even if you did have the knowledge, right? And you who, even if you had the power, who are not destined to protect yourself. In other words, you don't have the permission. So as I explained, being thus you who have given up all dharmas, right? Given up all paths of self-effort, methods of self-effort like karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga, and have simply surrendered Sharanam Vraja to the Supreme Lord and comprehended the Supreme Lord, him as the means to liberation, the only means and the perfect means to liberation, because he has the knowledge, he has the ability, total ability, and he also has the permission to save us. So once again, why the word tva, the word you have to understand, means a person who doesn't have the knowledge to save himself, doesn't have the ability to save himself, and because he is a slave or a servant of the Supreme Lord, does not have the permission from the Lord, is not able to save himself. He needs the Lord to save him. So this is what P.B. Anandacharya is saying. So let's go back to the main. It's a very short commentary, so let's go back to the main text. Now we're going to talk about the word sarva pape bhyo. Now sarva pape bhyo, right? Sarva papa, sarva means all, as in sarva dharma. Sarva means all, and papa means sin, right? So it is actually an ablative case or panchama vibhakti, right, in Sanskrit, and it's plural, right? Sarva papa means many sins or all sins, all sins. So we can say all sins means sins that we did in the past, sins that we did in the present, sins that we may be doing in the future. That means all sins and all types of sins, big sins, little sins, grave sins, minor sins, whatever they are, all sins, right? And it's in the dative case. So what it means is, not the dative, the ablative case, the panchama vibhakti, and it's in bahuvachanam, it's plural. So it means from all sins, right? From all sins. So since it has three parts, the word papa, the plural ending, abhyo, right? And the word sarva. So you have sarva, you have papa, and you have abhyo. Sarva means all. Papa means sins, and abhyo is a plural ablative ending, which means from all sins, right? So, okay, so he's going to explain the full meaning of sarva papa bhyo here. So text 249, sarva papa bhyo in Sanskrit means you are afraid that some of your various sins will be obstacles to attain me from all of those sins. So Arjuna was afraid up until this point. Krishna explained to him the system of some different systems of attaining liberation. He explained to him karma yoga. He explained to him jnana yoga. He explained to him bhakti yoga. He explained to him different meditations. He explained to him all these different things. But still, Arjuna had a doubt. He had a doubt. What was his doubt? His doubt was based on the fact that he was thinking, how can I do these things, even though I might be very qualified, a big kshatriya, and with so much knowledge, and Krishna's giving me knowledge, he's telling me how to do these things. But still, I have something which is holding me back from attaining success in doing these things, doing these different yogas, these different paths of self-effort, right? And that is, I have all of these sins. I have the reactions to all of these sins, because when we say sins, it means not just the sin itself, but the reaction to it, the karma. So we know the law of karma means if I do something good, I get a good reaction. If I do something bad, I get a bad reaction, right? So this is in Sanskrit called punya and papa. Both punya and papa here are meant when he says sins, right? Because sins will keep us in this material world. Our whole material body is made up of our previous sins, the karma for our previous sins, right? Now, our situation in this material world is in this birth comes about from the sins that we created in previous births, the reaction to those sins. Or also, if we have a good situation, like we're living in Hawaii or we're living in the heavenly planets or something like this in Swarga, it means that we've done punya, we've done some good activities, some materially good activities, and therefore we're also enjoying. So everybody has a different mix of karmas, of different reactions to different activities, some good, some bad, right? So all of these things, however, keep us in this material body, keep us in this material world, keep us in this samsara, this cycle of birth and death in this material world, where we sometimes enjoy, we sometimes suffer, but we go round and round. We can't completely enjoy fully. We can't free ourselves from this and attain liberation. So even if we commit good, if we do good acts, we will have to stay and enjoy the fruits of the good acts. Even if we do bad acts, we have to stay and we have to suffer for the punishment for the bad acts that we've done. This is the law of karma. Okay, so sarva papa bhyo includes punya and papa. So the word here is explaining that Arjuna was afraid right? That because I have done so many punyas and so many papas, I have this karma, which is due to me. So I have to suffer and I have to enjoy these papas and punyas, right? The reactions to these sins and these good activities, right? And that's what's keeping me from attaining liberation by doing karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga. So that's why Arjuna was a bit bewildered and a bit afraid. At the end, he said to Krishna, Krishna, you explained to me karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, but still, I don't still understand exactly how to attain liberation. I feel it's not possible for me because this sin and even this punya, even this pious activities that I've done, the reactions to these things, my karma is holding me back from attaining the result, right? So here he says, Sarvapapebhyo, you were afraid that some of your various sins are obstacles for attaining me. Attaining me means it's attaining Krishna, attaining the Supreme Lord Sriman Narayana, attaining liberation means attaining an eternal loving relationship with him. So from all of those sins, I feel that I cannot attain liberation, right? So this is a situation with all of us, not just Arjuna. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, of course, is the Supreme Person. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Arjuna is a person too, but Arjuna represents the individual soul. We are all Arjunas. We are all afraid of these sins and these pious activities that we performed in this life or in previous lives, that the reaction will keep us here in this material world. So what Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna is you don't need to be afraid of these things. You don't need to be afraid of all the reactions to your many sins, past, present, and future, or your many pious activities, past, present, and future. You don't have to be afraid of those things. He will protect us from those sins, from the reactions to those sins, and from the reactions to those pious activities also. From all karmas, he's going to protect us if we surrender to him. This is the meaning of Sarva Papebhyo. So the word papa means whatever obstructs gaining one's desire. The desire is to attain moksha. The desire is to attain the loving relationship with the Lord in Sri Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world, right? And close relationship to God of service in the spiritual world, which is natural for us to want to desire that. So the word papa means whatever obstructs that. So in Sanskrit, we also have this word virodhi. So we have in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, we have what's called Artha Panchagam. Normally we talk about these different subjects in philosophy and theology. We talk about tattva, hita, and purushartha, these three things. These are called Tattvatrayam by Tilalatacharya. He has a book called that. So there are three significant things. Tattva means the principles or the truth. Hita means the means to liberation, and purushartha means the goal or liberation itself. These are described in the Vedanta Sutras. These are described throughout the Vedic literature in Bhagavad Gita. This is also divided up from 3. It's also divided up into 5, and part of that 5 is there is a way to liberation. There are also obstacles in the way. These obstacles in Sanskrit are called virodhi. Virodhi means obstacles. So here the sarva papa, the papa, which means sarva punya and sarva papa. It means the pious activities and the sinful activities, all of them, past, present, and future, right? Guru, minor or very, very heavy, very grievous sins, right? Right. It means the karma from all those things, all karmas, right, are the things which are virodhis. They're the things which are holding us back from attaining liberation. So we all have that. We all have karmas. We've all had previous lives where we've committed so many sins, done so many pious activities. We have those karmas. So we should all be thinking like Arjuna that, wow, we are unable to save ourselves because of the massive karmas and punyas and papas that we have, sins and pious activities, the massive reactions to those things that are there, that are weighing us down, and so that we cannot attain liberation. So the word papa means whatever obstructs us, whatever obstructs us. So we're obstructed by the reaction to sins. We're obstructed by reaction to good activities too, to pious activities, right? Whatever we do, if we don't do it simply for the Lord, if we do it for ourselves, whether it's good or bad, we get the karmic reaction, and that binds us in this material world and stops us. It's an obstacle to liberation. It's an obstacle to attaining the eternal service of the Lord. So since the context is moksha, right, and is the cause of something undesired, what is undesired? So if it's desired to go to liberation, what is undesired is to stay here and not attain liberation. So even if we stay in heaven, and we enjoy, even if we're in Hawaii and we're enjoying so nicely, or even if we're in hell, in Naraka, in Swarga or Naraka, it doesn't matter. Even if we're suffering for our sins in Naraka, or we're enjoying for our pious activities, our punyas in Swarga, right? Still, we're here in this material world. Still, we haven't attained the desired result, which is complete liberation and getting out from this material world, getting out from that cycle of birth and death. So, because all of those things, both good and bad reactions, are keeping us here in this material world, they're all considered to be sarva papa. They're all considered to be virodhi. They're all considered to be obstacles, right? The cause of something undesired. What is undesired? Staying here and not being able to go to liberation. So since the context is moksha, right? The whole book is called Mumuksupadi. Mumuksupadi, mumukshu, a mumukshu as opposed to a bubukshu. A bubukshu is a person who just wants to enjoy in this material world. And a mumukshu is a person who aspires to get liberated, to get beyond this material world. Mumukshu for moksha. His desire is moksha. A bubukshu is bhokta. His desire is ordinary enjoyment in this world. Okay, so if you're a mumukshu, if you're a person who reads Mumuksupadi, if you have decided to surrender to the Supreme Lord and to try to attain liberation by having him save you, right, then that means that moksha is your goal. Your goal is liberation from this material world. So since the context is moksha, the whole context of the book is moksha. Everybody wants to go to liberation. Not everybody, but some people, the mumukshus, want to go to liberation. There are, of course, some people who want to just simply enjoy in this material world. That's their problem, right? That's not our problem. Our problem is how to attain liberation. Arjuna's problem was how to attain liberation. So here, the obstacles for gaining one's desire, which means moksha, are obstacles to the attainment of the Lord. So if we simply attain the service of the Lord, we attain the association of the Lord, then we will attain liberation because the Lord will take us. Just like the mother cat will pick up the baby kitten and save it, right? Without the baby kitten doing anything at all, right? Here, the obstacles to knowledge of the Lord, right? So there's obstacles to knowledge of the Lord because we haven't studied all the scriptures. We haven't attained that knowledge, right? Desire. Here, the obstacles to knowledge, jnana, of the Lord. Desire, ruchi, to attain him, right? So we don't know all the scriptures. We haven't attained spiritual with so much knowledge that we can attain liberation. Ruchi, we don't even have the real desire. Our desire is not fully, we are not fully concentrating every minute, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on attaining the Lord, right? We don't have that determination. And so we don't have the jnana, we don't have the ruchi, we don't have the upaya and the means, the upaya to do so. We don't actually have the means to attain our own liberation by ourselves, right? Have already been destroyed. They have already been destroyed, right? Here, the obstacles to the knowledge, the obstacles to attaining him, and the obstacles to not being able to do that, which were covered in the word twa, which we just discussed, you, right? Again, what is in you? The word you describes it describes us. It describes Arjuna. We are in the situation, the same situation as Arjuna. Not exactly, because he was on a battlefield and we're not exactly on a battlefield, but we're all in this material world and we're trying to attain liberation, right? So we're in the same situation as Arjuna. Arjuna is our example, our paradigm for us. And so we have no knowledge, we have no power, and we have no ability to attain the Lord like that. Here it's saying that that has already been, Sarvapapebhyo shows us that we are being freed from all of that. We are being freed from those virodhis, those obstacles to attaining liberation by surrendering to the Lord. Sharanam Vraja, right? Mam ekam sharanam vraja, surrendering unto him alone. Right. So they have already been destroyed. Where? By the first part of the verse. The first part of the verse says, we've given up trying to save ourselves by path of self-effort, sarvadhamam parityaja. We've completely given that up, that idea. And we have sarvadhamam parityaja. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. We have surrendered unto him alone, right? We've surrendered unto him alone, right? So we've already done that. That's the first part of the verse. So therefore we can understand that Sarvapapebhyo has been completely wiped out. Sarvapapebhyo means all of the obstacles to liberation. That has completely been taken care of so far. So he's just reiterating that. He's telling us again that because you have done all this, you have gotten rid of all the obstacles. Sarvapapebhyo, you're saved. What remains thereafter are obstacles to the final attainment. Therefore, he says, you are afraid of whatever few sins there are which would prevent attaining me. Right? So still, we might be afraid. There might be some thing holding us back from attaining liberation. Some sin or some punya, some pious activity or some sin. This word means from each and every one of those sins. So just to emphasize to us, if you read the first part of the verse that Krishna says, Sarvadhamma Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam, it's enough. It's completely enough. We gave up trying to save ourselves, Sarvadhamma Prityaja, by our own efforts. Mamekam Sharanam, we surrendered only to Krishna, only to Sriman Narayana. Right? That's enough right there. But just in case we still think that we can't attain liberation by doing that, he gives us this word sarvapapebhyo in the second half, in the third line, right? He gives us this word sarvapapebhyo just to prove to us that it's all right, that we have completely gotten rid of, that we have completely overcome any obstacle to a liberation. That is the meaning of sarvapapebhyo. That's why sarvapapebhyo is such an important word here, because it proves to us, he's trying to prove to us that he accepts us, that we've surrendered to him, we've given up trying to save ourselves, then we've surrendered to him alone. And now Krishna is saying, because you did that, there are absolutely no sins, past, present, and future, or pious activities, past, present, and future, which will cause karmas to keep you here in this material world. So therefore he says, sarvapapebhyo. That is the meaning of sarvapapebhyo. Right? So now he's going to explain even more the meaning of the abhyo, the meaning of the sarvapapa has been explained. Now abhyo, because there's three parts to it, right? Right? There's three parts to sarvapapebhyo. Sarvapapa we've discussed, all sins, right? Which means all sins and all pious activities also. It means all karmas, right? Abhyo is plural. There's another meaning to abhyo here, which is going to be explained. So he says, as in the passage, false knowledge, wicked character, and foul body, right? And this is a quotation from Tiruviratam, from Nalaya Divya Prabandham by the Alwars. This is from Tiruviratam, verse 1, right? So this is a quotation. So as in the passage, false knowledge, wicked character, and foul body, this all applies to us, right? This means ignorance, avidya. Vidya means knowledge. Avidya means ignorance. Actions, karma. Karmic tendencies, vasana. Vasana means karmic tendencies. So there are actions that we do, either good or bad, pious or sinful, papa and punya, right? These are actions. Then there are these karmic tendencies, which are called vasana, which means just the thought or the desire to do a sin or the desire to do a good act, right? A pious act. These things are also holding us back. Our ignorance, our actions, our desires, right? Good or bad, right? Desires, ruchi, right? And attachment to material realm, right? Being attached to being here in this body and to our family, our friend, our country, our society. We are attached to all these things which means that we're not attached to the Lord only, right? When we're attached to other things. So, prakriti sambandha. Sambandha means connected to prakriti. We're connected to prakriti. Prakriti means this material nature. So, in this Tiruviratam, verse 1, that says false knowledge, wicked character, and foul body, right? Namalwar says false knowledge, wicked character, and foul body, thus referring to 1, conceiving the soul to be an entity made of insentient matter. This is the first false knowledge. The first false knowledge is that I am the body. I am not the body. Krishna already explained this in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Tehenoshmin yata dehe kovaram yovaram jara. Right? So Krishna explains that just as we go from childhood to youthhood to old age to death, again we will be born again, right? And it's the soul will go from one body to another body, going from a child's body to a youth's body to a mature body to an old age body to dead body, right? Like that. The soul stays the same. The body changes, right? So we are not the body. So Krishna has already explained this to Arjuna. We are not the body. And he says, you will go through many lives. Krishna also says, many, many lives I have gone through and you have gone through. So Krishna has come. He has come as an avatar in many, many different incarnations as Rama, Narasimha, as Vamana, as all of these different incarnations of the Lord, of Sriman Narayana, have come in different bodies, but he knows all of them. He remembers all of them. We don't remember all of our incarnations. We have reincarnated. We have gone through many, many lives, many, many births and deaths. Our soul has traveled through many bodies, not just human bodies, but also animal bodies, plant bodies, whatever it is, according to our karma, according to the reactions to our sins and our pious activities. So we go through those different bodies and those different lives in this world, and we forget every time we take birth. We forget about the previous lives. Okay, but he doesn't, and he's already explained this in the beginning of the Gita. So we should know this. So, but that's why he explains it first, is because it's the first false knowledge. The first false knowledge that everybody has in this material world is they think that they are actually the body. They think that, a plant thinks it's a plant. An animal thinks it's an animal body. A human being thinks it's the human body. It's not. It is the soul within those things, which is the true being, the Jivatman or the Atman, right? That is explained by Lord Krishna in the beginning, and the very first thing he explains to Arjuna in spiritual life is to know that we are not the body. We are not the material. We are not made of matter. We are a spiritual being, a spiritual spark, right? Called the Atman. So, thus conceiving the soul to be an entity made of insentient matter and thus capable of being described by the word asatya. Satya means true. Satya means eternal. So satya means true or eternal or truth, right? Right? Asatya, the opposite of that, means unreal or false, right? Because matter is considered to be unreal or false because it changes. The body changes. So we can't say it's eternal. We can't say it's true. Like that. Okay, it exists, but it's always going through modifications, always going through changes. So the word asatya, thus capable of being described, the body, by the word asatya, unreal or false, since matter comes into being and is destroyed, right? So this body was created and it goes through changes and then it dies, and then the soul travels on to another body. This is the point of the first false knowledge, that we think that we are the body. Second, so that is what Namawa means by false knowledge. That's first of all what we have. Is we have false knowledge. What wicked character, what does that mean? Engaging in wicked worldly actions. Samsarika dushkarma. So karma means actions. There's sukarma and dukarma. So here we say dushkarma, right? So sukarma would be good actions. Dukarma means bad actions. Dushkarma. So samsarika means in this material world, in this cycle of birth and death. So our bad actions in this cycle of birth and death is called samsarika dushkarma. Right, engaging in wicked and worldly actions, samsarika dushkarma, on account of confusing the body and soul this way. So first of all, we are born into this material world. We're associated with matter by being put into a plant body or an animal body or a human body. And because we have that consciousness and we think that we are the body, that leads to us doing wrong things because our wrong knowledge leads to wrong actions, right? I think I'm the body, therefore I act like I am the body, right? So this makes us perform wrong actions or wicked or worldly actions. So thirdly, so there's the false knowledge which leads to the false actions. Thirdly, the connection with an impure body consisting of flesh and blood, etc., which necessarily results from those actions, right? So it's a continual cycle. We are born into this material world. We are born into ignorance, into the false knowledge that we are the body. Because we're born, because we have that false knowledge, because we have that avidya, that ignorance, right? Therefore, we do wrong actions. Those wrong actions create a reaction, which is called karma. If we do a bad action, we get a bad karma or sinful reaction, right? If we do a good action, we get the punya or the pious reaction. In either case, we get karma from that. We get the reaction from that. And that reaction, we take those reactions to the next life, and those reactions, right, good or bad, create our next body in the next incarnation, like that. So that is the third thing. So false knowledge, wicked character, and then foul body, right? Right. Foul body means either as a deva in Swarga or as an asura in Naraka. Either we go to heaven and we're enjoying like Indra or like one of the devatas, or we go to Naraka, we go to hell, and we're suffering like somebody who's done a lot of sinful activity. So either way, we're in this material world and we're suffering or enjoying, and either way, we consider that to be a foul body because it's not spiritual. It is material, and we still have this false knowledge and wicked character. Even the devatas, they commit sins, right? There's so many examples in the Shastras. You read about Indra being puffed up with pride and committing different sins, Brahma committing different sins, whatever. So just because you're in Swarga doesn't mean that you don't have false knowledge, that you don't have wicked character. So Namawar here is talking about everybody, plant, animal, human being, deva, asura, whatever, in this material world. And everybody has false knowledge. Everybody has wicked character. Everybody has a foul body. Right? So, according to this statement, these obstructions are avidya, ignorance, karma, right? Our reactions to our activities, but the reactions to our activities. Vasana, which is the tendencies to do those activities. Ruchi is those desires which take us to the tendencies and which take us to the bad activities. And prakriti sambandha, our actual being associated with matter, being attached to being in this material world, being attached to matter. So these are ignorance, actions, karmic tendencies, desires, and attachment to matter. Of these, avidya, ignorance, refers to three types of ignorance. There are three types of ignorance. Absence of knowledge, right? So somebody's just innocent. They don't know anything, right? Sometimes we say children are innocent. They haven't learned any good things. They haven't learned any bad things, right? They're a blank slate. So this is also a type of ignorance. We say, oh, they're innocent children. They didn't know better. They didn't know any better, so they did something wrong, Okay, so avidya not only means, it means also ignorance. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse, they say. Okay, so ignorance, first type of ignorance, is called absence of knowledge. So just an absence of knowledge, you just didn't know. You didn't know it was wrong to break the law, and you broke the law. That's not an excuse. That is called jnanudaya. Jnanudaya. Jnanudaya means the absence of knowledge. That's the first type of ignorance. Second type of ignorance, somewhat perverse knowledge, right? Anyata jnana. And then completely contrary knowledge, right? So we have a person who doesn't know better and he commits a mistake. We have another person who somewhat perverse, right? So he knows it's wrong, but still he does it. And after he's punished for that sin or whatever, he doesn't do it again, like that. So you have some people, unwittingly they break the law, they make a mistake, they commit a sin, and then because they say I don't know. There are other people who know it's wrong. They theoretically know it's wrong, but still they try to do it because they think they might get away with that sin, right? And then they get punished, and then they don't do it ever again. And the third person is completely contrary knowledge, right? A person who even he knows that it's sinful, he insists on doing it again and again and again. And even if he is caught and punished for that sin, he continues to do it. It's a complete rascal, right? Completely contrary knowledge, viparita jnana. So these are the three types of ajnana or avidya, ignorance, that infect us in this material world. Karma or actions. So he's explaining, Manavala Mamuni here is going into detail of these five things. Avidya, karma, vasana, ruchi, and prakriti sambandha. Ignorance, actions, right? Karmic tendencies, desires, and the attachment to matter. So he's explaining them in detail now, right? These are what? What are these five things? These have to do with the plural ending, ebhyo, on sarvapapa. Sarvapapa ebhyo. So ebhyo is the thing which makes it plural. So what is he explaining? He's explaining all the different plural things, all the different papas, all the different kinds of papas, right? All the different kinds of sins, like that, because that is the plural ending. Sarvapapa ebhyo, right? Okay. So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about why it's plural. Why is it plural? Because it's in so many, he's explaining every different possibility of sin, like that. So he's saying sin from just being innocent, sin from being a little bit perverse, like that, sin but from being completely against something, like this. So jnanudaya, anata ajnana, anyata jnana, and viparita jnana. Karma, now he says karma. Now he's talking about the second thing here, karma, or our actions, right, refers to the merits and sins, punya and papa. So I was mentioning before, right? So here it is. So here it is explained that papa doesn't just mean sins. It also means pious activities too. They are also going to bind us. The karma, the reaction to those actions, whether good or bad, are going to bind us in this material world. So karma refers to merits and sins, punya and papa, right? Pious and sinful activities, for which, with regard to moksha, merit as well as sin is to be rejected. As far as moksha, what is moksha? Moksha is the desired result. We desire moksha. What is not desired? What is not desired is to stay in this world in the cycle of birth and death, in samsara. Okay. So what has to be rejected in order to go to moksha? We have to reject both punya and papa. We have to reject sin, and we have to reject also pious activity, right? Some people don't realize that. They think, oh, if I just do good things, if I'm attached to doing good things, opening hospitals, digging wells, helping people, giving to charity and everything like that, that's fine. But if I'm attached to that too much, I will stay in the material world to do that. That's the point. So punya and papa also. Punya is just another type of sin, basically. It just keeps you here in this material world. Both of them are virodhis. Both of them are obstacles to liberation, right? Sometimes it's difficult for people to accept that. For with regard to going to moksha, merit or punya or pious activity, as well as sin, has to be rejected. You have to reject both of them. Indeed, it is said. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that we can't open hospitals, we can't dig wells, we can't help people, we can't give to charities. We can. We can do all those things, but we have to do it as in the name of the Lord. We have to do it. We have to think that He is doing it through us, like that. We can do good things, right? Materially good things as well, right? But we can't be attached to the fact. We can't think that I am doing these things. We can't think that I'm doing these things to get some benefit, to get some punya, to go to Svarga, to enjoy in the heavenly planets because of that. No, we have to think I am doing this, right? It's actually the Lord through me as an instrument doing these things. We can do those things, but then sin doesn't. Then the punya, the pious action doesn't. Karma from the pious action doesn't attach to us. Neither does the sin attach to us, right? So, rejecting merit and sin, the wise man, indeed it is said, rejecting merit and sin, the wise man devoid of passion, thus attains equality with the divine, right? Equality in quality, not in quantity, of course. God is much greater than the soul, but we want a divine nature. We want to bring out our divine nature. We are divine by nature, right? We are spiritual by nature. We are spiritual. God is also spiritual. He is so great. We are very, very small. So we want to bring out our divine nature. We are like a spark. He's like a huge fire. So this quotation is from Mundaka Upanishad 3:1-3. Okay, this quotation: rejecting merit and sin, the wise man devoid of passion thus attains equality with the divine. Equality in quality with the divine. So that's the explanation of karma. The next word is vasana. Vasana means the tendencies. The tendency to do good actions or to do bad actions, to do sins or to do pious activities, punyas and papas. The tendencies refers to the tendencies towards ignorance, karma, and the attachment to matter, right? These are tendencies that we have. When you do something good or when you do something bad, it creates what we call a bija or a seed within our heart. It creates the opportunity, the tendency to do it again, right? You do something bad, you get the tendency to do it again and again, right? It becomes addictive. Sin becomes addictive. Good activities, pious activities also become addictive. You give to charity, you decide to give again and again. You open one hospital, you decide to open more hospitals. You dig one well, you try to dig more wells, like that. So the tendency when you do something, either good or bad, is to do it again in this material world, right? So that is called vasana. That is the tendencies towards ignorance, karma, and attachment to matter. Ruchi. Ruchi means desire. So desires are many according to the objects desired. So all of these other objects, what we want to do is we want to make the desire only one. The desire should only be one, to attain liberation. Two, which means to get to a point where we have a personal relationship with God, a loving relationship with God of service, serving God eternally in Sri Vaikuntham. That is our desire. Every other desire is keeping us here in this material world. So desires are many according to the objects of desire. So some people, I desire to go to this restaurant. I desire to get a lot of money. I desire to marry a beautiful wife. I desire to have children. I desire to go to school and get a diploma. I desire to do this, that, and the other, whatever it is. Okay? So desires are many. There's many, many desires like that, which are not the desire to go to liberation, which means to serve the Lord lovingly in Vaikuntha forever, perfectly, right? And that is moksha. Okay, so that desire has to be cultivated above and beyond all these other desires, right? Eschewing all these other desires, not wanting all these other desires. Okay, so that's desire. Then Prakriti Sambandha is the last thing which he's going to explain. Prakriti Sambandha means the attachment to material energy or material nature, means the attachment to insentient matter, both gross and subtle. So we're attached. I'm attached to all my possessions. I have so many books. I have a house. I have a car. I have all these things that I have, right? Like that. I have a family also. I have a country. I have a society. I'm attached to everything like that. I have my life that I'm living here. Blah, blah, blah. All these things I'm attached to, both gross and subtle. So somebody might be attached to gross material things. They may also be attached. I am attached to people. I have pride. I'm attached to what people think about me. I've attached to my reputation. I'm attached to I'm attached to many subtle things, right? I'm attached to so many, looking good or being handsome or being beautiful or being young I'm attached to many things. These things are not necessarily totally gross. They can be subtle also, mental things. I'm attached to, to many things, many things, both gross and subtle. So this is called Prakriti Sambandha. So now he's completed talking about Sarva Papa and Abhyo, the ending to Sarva Papa. So Sarva Papa Abhyo is completely explained now in full. Now let us see what P.B. Anangacharya says about Sarva Papa Abhyo in his short commentary. So here we have Sarva Papa Abhyo. Now the meaning of Sarva Papa Abhyo is explained. Papam, or sin, right, is what is an obstacle to what is seeked. What is seeked? Liberation, right, moksha. And which is the cause of providing that which is not wanted. What is not wanted, what is not desired, that is to stay in this material world in samsara, right, and stay here enjoying and suffering our punyas and papas, our karmas. Those with the obstacles to reaching him are obstacles to what is seeked. So whatever is an obstacle to reaching the Supreme Lord, Krishna, or Sriman Narayana, right, are obstacles to what is seeked, to liberation. So the obstacles to attaining him are the obstacles to liberation. Why? Because he himself, it's described in the first part of the verse, he himself is the means of liberation. Krishna himself, Sriman Narayana himself, is the only means to liberation. He's the perfect means to liberation, right? And therefore, if we can't attain him, we can't attain liberation, right? So therefore, he says, therefore the sins, which means both sins and pious activities, right, that are talked about here, are those that are the objects to reaching him. Very simple. Since the plural form, papebhyaha, right, or papebhyo, right, with sandhi in Sanskrit because it's connected to the next line, right? The sarva papebhyaha becomes sarva papebhyo by grammatical rule of putting words together in Sanskrit, right? So by the plural form ebhyaha, which we just discussed in the main text, is used. It talks about the many sins such as avidya, ignorance, karma, activities, vasana, tendencies, right, ruchi, desires, and prakriti sambandha, the attachment to material nature. Avidya is the lack of knowledge. Karma is the punya and papa, right? So ignorance is lack of knowledge, and we already described the three types of lack of knowledge, right? And then karma, or the activities, are two types, punya and papa, pious activities and sinful activities. Vasana is the attachment to the lack of knowledge, being attached to the lack of knowledge, right? To karma and to the lack of knowledge, the karmas and the things of this world, right? That is vasana, right? So what is said through the word sarva? What is meant by the word sarva? It is, sarva means all. So all papas, all sins, all pious activities. It is thinking about the following: the karmas that are done by habit, without thought, right? Similar like scratching, right? Or right, due to the previous attachment to the world, right? Unknown karmas, unintentional karmas, unintentional sins, unintentional good activities, which we call agyata sukriti, agyata dukriti. I didn't know I stepped on an ant. I didn't know I did something. I didn't know I didn't know I did something. I did something for somebody, without knowing that was good. But you will have to suffer for those things that you didn't know also. You didn't know that you did it. You were ignorant of doing it. You were innocent or ignorant, and you did something wrong with something right. You still have to take the reaction for that, right? So first type of karma is when we talk about sarva, all the different karmas, but first type is by the innocent or the ignorant. The acts done, the second type, the acts that are done due to fear of what will the world think if I don't do them, right? I'm brought up in a meat-eating family, or I'm brought up, and so I eat meat just because my mother cooks meat, or whatever it is like that. It's a sin, whether or not whether or not you know it or not, whether or not you accept it or not because of what the world may think of you. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do this in public because my society will criticize me, like that, if you think like that, right? And the daily and occasional ritual acts that are done out of mercy for others, with the thought that if I stop doing them because I don't do them, then it will be a loss to them. So we sometimes think, oh, I must continue doing this. I must continue doing this, even though I don't think it's a good idea, right? I have to continue my cultivation of positive effort, karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga, just because everybody else is doing it, like that, or whatever actions that you do. I can't just simply surrender unto the Lord, right? So even with a little bit of knowledge, people are still acting in their wrong interest. That's right. The acts that have been given up, but are repeated due to rajas and tamas, or passion and ignorance. These two gunas or modes of nature, right? So we have, when we act in the mode of goodness, sattvika actions, right? Then these actions we attribute to the Lord. We attribute these to the Lord, and we don't want the reaction. We say, Kayena vachamana sendriyeva buddhyatmanava pakatesvava karovi yajachikalam parasmai narayana iti samarpayami. I offer all of this, whatever I do with my hands, my feet, my mouth, my brain, my intelligence, I offer that to you, like that. You're the one who's doing that. You're doing it through me, only by your permission. You are one of the 5 parts of action parts of action that make the action happen. So it is you alone, O Lord, who is working through me to do these sattvic things, to do these things in the mode of goodness. The things in the mode of passion and ignorance, that's completely my fault. If I do things in the mode of passion and ignorance, if I'm affected by desires, or by wanting to continue to do simple activities that I've done before, or even pious activities that I've done before and get these karmas, that's completely on me, like that. So the acts that have been given up, so even if I give it up, but I still have that tendency and I still have that desire to do it again, like that, but are repeated due to passion and ignorance, right? We can't say that we're perfect, even if we have some knowledge of spiritual things. We still commit mistakes, even intentionally. Even intentionally, we are forced to do it because of the body that we have, the mentality that we have, right? We are forced to do those things again and again. Whether they be sins or whether they be pious activities, they bind us to the material world. So whether you didn't know and you did something unknown, good or bad, or whether you did know and you did something good or bad, right? Still, the karma is going to affect you. So that is what is meant by sarva. That is what is meant by all sins. All of these sins, the ones that you knew about, the ones that you didn't know about, the ones that you wanted to do, the ones that you didn't want to do, the ones that you were forced to do by the modes of nature because of your body. You have these particular modes of nature, passion and ignorance acting upon you. Those ones also, all sins, past, present, future, known, unknown, innocent, whatever it is, all of the sins. Sarva papi bhyo means absolutely all sins. He is going to free us from absolutely all sins. If we do what? If we abandon all self-effort, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, to attain liberation, right? And if we simply surrender unto him alone, mam ekam sharanam vraja, then he promises, Lord Krishna promises, Sriman Narayana promises, right? All of these sins are completely nullified. Because only if they become nullified, they are the obstacles to liberation. So only if they become nullified can he promise us liberation. He can take us to liberation. He is the only one that can nullify these sins. And therefore, Arjuna was thinking, all of these sins are stopping me from going to liberation. Therefore, I must somehow get rid of them. I am unable to get rid of them. Krishna alone can get rid of them. Lord Sriman Narayana is going to get rid of them for me by simply taking shelter of him and surrendering unto him. So going back to the main text, and we'll continue on, right? In the main text, so now we understood twa, what twa meant, right? You, and we understood what sarva papi bhyo means, right? So now, let's see. Oh, he's got some more to say about Sarvapapibhyo, looks like. Right. Those obstructions, text 251, those obstructions, those virodhis, those obstacles, right, which follow from natural tendencies. Prakriti vasana. Vasana, remember, means tendencies. Prakriti means material tendencies, materialistic tendencies. So those obstructions which follow from natural tendencies, natural meaning materially natural, right, material tendencies, like shredding grass or scratching, we've already dealt with, Pibhiyanangacharya has already done this part of it, but we're going to finish here in the main text, right? Like shredding grass or scratching, right? So those done out of fear of the world's scorn, out of compassion and out of confusion, all these things are referred to when we talk about Sarvapapibhyo as the following are referred to here. Number one, those later misdeeds which follow unintentionally out of natural tendencies, from such things as mindlessly shredding grass. I'm not sure what he means exactly by shredding grass, or walking on the grass, stomping on the grass. The grass is a living being, but we walk on it. We don't even think about it. It's a living being. We cause it to be crushed under our feet, right? This is mindless. This is mindless sin. It's sin. It's sinful activity, but it's mindless. We don't even think about it. We just do it, right? So unintentional, mindless, or ignorant, or innocent, sin, right? From those things like mindlessly shredding grass or scratching when it itches. Even if we scratch it, it itches, some microbe or something is being destroyed, like that. Like that. If we get a mosquito bite and we slap the mosquito, we kill a mosquito. This is killing, right? Or if there are so many things that we do without thinking, like that, which are sinful, like that. So the daily and occasional, number two is the daily and occasional duties, nitya naimitika karmas. Nitya means eternal or daily. Naimitika means occasional. Karmas means activities that we do, which are done out of fear, just like the Brahmins, they do the Sandhya Vandana 3 times a day. They have to do that. That's their duty to do that, which are done out of fear, saying, if I don't do them, people will reproach me. Right? If I don't do Sandhya Vandanam, the other Brahmins will look at me and they'll say, you're a sinful person. You didn't do your Sandhya Vandanam 3 times today. Like that. Okay. So, there may be some other duties that we do, more material duties that we do. We do them occasionally or every day, like that. And if we don't do them, our people in our society will criticize us. Right? So we're attached to doing them. Right? Then thirdly, duties done out of mercy, thinking, alas, if people see me omitting these, they will imitate me and be destroyed. Right? So we also try to be a good example for other people in society. We try to act well, like that. But if we're attached to that idea that we are the teachers of people by giving them example, that's also wrong. Right? So this is 64 here. It's interesting. So there's a footnote here, which I'm going to read about 64, about some duties are done out of mercy, thinking, alas, if people see me omitting these, they will imitate me and be destroyed, right? They'll do sin if they don't follow my example. Here, dharmas done out of compassion, or loka sangraha. Loka sangraha, loka means the whole world. Sangraha means the good of the whole world, right? So we do this out of the compassion for the whole world, right? Our compassion for all other living beings, right? So dharma is done here out of compassion, or loka sangraha, desire for the welfare and support of the world, seem to be inescapably upayas, or means, and are thus to be included in the sins from which the Lord releases one, right? Because we have just said in the first part of the Charma Sloka, we have said, Mam ekam, to him alone, right? Krishna says, to me alone. So it's to him alone that we have to sharanam vraja, surrender, right? So if we're surrendering to him alone, we're taking him alone as the means to liberation. That means if we accept any other means, that's a sin. Accepting any other means is a sin. So here it's saying, dharma is done for the compassion of the world. We may think that is something that we have to do. We have to show a good example for other people by living a pious and religious life, like that, right? So he says, even that is a sin which the Lord has to release us from, right? The sin of that mentality. That mentality is a sin. Compare Sri Vachanabhushana 278. So again, I'll read it here. Here, dharmas out of compassion, or loka sangraha, desire for the welfare and support of the world, seem to be inescapably upayas. We think of these things as means, as also means to help other people or to help in our own liberation. If we show our good example, that's what we have to do. We have to do that as part of our surrender to God. We have to show a good example. No, that's not part of the upaya. That's not part of the Lord himself is the only upaya. He's the only means. He himself, mam ekam. Ekam means alone. He alone is the upaya, is the means, like that. Not showing a good example to people, not doing all these other things. They may seem like those things are also important, but actually only the Lord is important, right? So we have to give up that mentality that anything else is important, right? And that is what is meant by exclusive devotion or exclusive surrender to the Lord, right? And are thus to be included in sins from which the Lord has to release us. He has to release us from the sin of pride. The sin of pride. We are proud that we are examples for others and that we're setting a good example. That is wrong. That is wrong too. That is the sin of pride. Right. So compare Sri Vachanabhushana 278. Here, Manavala Muni quotes Pila Lokacharya's Tani Shloka, right? Saying that performing the bare minimum of dharmas out of compassion to set an example for the upliftment of sons and disciples are a form of service pleasing to the Lord and should be performed. So Manavala Muni is saying that a Sri Vaishnava, who takes to the Chandramasloka, should perform a bare minimum of dharmas, out of compassion to set an example for the upliftment of his family members like sons and daughters, obviously, right? And his disciples, right? Are a form of service pleasing to the Lord and should be performed. So that is pleasing to the Lord. It is pleasing to the Lord, but not that he goes to some great lengths and that he becomes therefore attached and has pride that he is doing it so in such a great manner, right? It should, he says here, Manavala Muni says, a bare minimum of dharmas out of compassion for these others. And the Lord is happy with that. The Lord is very pleased with that because the Lord understands that you are not attached, that you don't have the pride of thinking that I'm such a great person, that I'm doing all these sacrifices and all these pujas and all these japas and all these things like that. Yeah? Because doing those things, if we're not careful, we'll get pride in those things, and that pride is a sin. Right. The reference is actually to the Tani Charamam, right? Page 333, not the Tani Sloka. The idea seems to be that if one's primary aim is to please the Lord, Loka Sangraha Dharmas can be included in the service. So we can do all these services. We can dig wells, we can open hospitals, we can give charity, we can do all those things. If we see them as service to the Lord, if we see that as all service to the Lord, we could do Sandhya Vandana, we can do all of these other things. We can do performances of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. We can do all those things. Karma, Jnana, and Bhakti are not forbidden. We can do those things, but we must see them strictly as services to the Lord and as pleasing to him. And if we don't feel that they're pleasing to him, if we suddenly get into the idea that these are also means of our liberation, right, that's wrong. And that is a sin in itself. That is part of sarva papebhyo. And that has to be given up. And that is the thing, when we say sarva dhammam prityaja, it means not only giving up sin, but it also means giving up the pride of doing punya, the pride of doing pious activities or dharmas, like that. So that can be included in the service as long as we're doing all these things for the Lord's pleasure. One's primary aim is only compassion for others. If one's primary aim is only compassion for others, then such actions are upayas. If my primary aim in doing these things is to out of compassion for other people, then I'm seeing this action of setting an example as an upaya, as a means, as part of the means to my liberation. And it's therefore an effort that I'm making. And for a prapana, that's a sin. That's a sin, which the Lord must forgive. So the Lord's going to forgive us if we do that, but we shouldn't perform those things. Those things are also sins. That's the sin of pride of setting an example and doing those things like that. It's a sort of a subtle point here, but it needed a deeper explanation. That's why we went into it. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, things done when confused by rajas and tamas. Right? So because we have this body and we have these certain tendencies, the mode of passion and ignorance sometimes, works on us, or maybe always works on us, and therefore we do things just out of being impelled by ignorance and passion. So things done when confused by passion and ignorance, such as engaging in abandoned upayas or doing property again, right? Doing property again. So this is very important, what Manavala Mahamuni says here. Doing abandoned upayas. So somehow or other, after coming to the realization that we have to surrender to the Lord alone, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, right? And after understanding the process of property of surrendering unto him and having him as the only means, then we go back and we say, no, I really don't have faith in that. I really think that I need to do bhakti yoga, I need to do karma yoga, I need to do jnana yoga, or I need to do some other sadhana along with that, right, in order for me to be saved. If I, again, slip from this mentality of actual, total, absolute surrender and exclusive surrender to the Lord and accepting him as the only means, as the one and only means, right, that is a sin. And the other thing is thinking that property is the way, but then thinking I have to do property again and again and again. Property is done once only. And even the Southern School and the Northern School, both schools of Sri Vaishnavism, the Tengalais and the Wadagalais, all agree on that. So this is very important. Manavala Mahamuni is emphasizing this here. We should not think that we have to do property again, that we have to surrender to the Lord again. We do not. No. What was described before is that if we do something wrong, then we can simply remember the time that we did property, that we surrendered to the Lord, and that remembrance is enough. But no, surrender cannot be done again, because the knowledge of surrender is the knowledge that we are the slave of the Lord, we are the property of the Lord, we are the servant of the Lord. We can't again become his slave. We can't again become his property. We are his property. We're his property. We've stolen his property and we've said it's mine. We are ourselves. We belong to ourselves. Now we've given it back to him. We've returned the stolen property. The soul belongs to God, and we've returned it to God by surrendering unto him, by coming to that mental realization that we belong to him. We can't again take it. That's also a sin. And then again surrender. Again and again surrender. This is wrong. Surrender more than one time is wrong. And similarly, taking to these other upayas, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti, this is also wrong. Very clear. He raises a doubt and reveals that even things not done with the idea that they are sadhanas are included in the category of sadhana because of their outcome. He raises a doubt. He raises a doubt that even things which are not done with the idea of being a sadhana, even we do things and we don't think that they're sadhana, we don't think that they're a means, we don't think they're a upaya to liberation, are included in the category of sadhana. Because who would think? Who would think that doing property again is a sadhana? It's not really. Property, we never said It's not an upaya. We never said that doing property is a positive thing that we're doing. It's just a realization that we are the property of the Lord, we're the slave of the Lord, we're the servant of the Lord. Right? So we never said that. So doing property again would also not be an upaya, would not be a means, right? Would not be a path of effort like that, would not be a sadhana. Right? So we might think, oh, doing property again is not a sadhana. We can do property again. Why not? No, you cannot. Or doing these other upayas. No, we've already said sarvadharma parityaja. Parityaja means completely giving up, completely abandoning all these things. Completely. Okay. So text 252, he's going to explain here about rejected upayas, right? Rejected means deliberation, which we talked about in the very beginning of the Charmasloka, sarvadharmam parityaja. Right, there is no need to wonder whether, like a madman's perambulations, a madman walking around in a crazy state, will lead him to a village. These are to be included in rejected upayas. They certainly are rejected upayas. So he's giving an example of like a madman staggering around. When a person is sane, he goes from point A to point B and he knows his way and he goes. A madman, you never know where he's going to go. He's mad, so he's not taking any particular route. So he's just, somehow or other, a madman thinks, by stumbling here and there, eventually I'll end up at point B. I'll end up at the village. I'm trying to make it to the village, but if I just step anywhere, I could just end up at the village. No. Only if you go to the village when you get to the village. You walk around like a madman and you'll never get it. So similarly, in this material world, if we stumble around like a madman, trying to do this and doing that and do the other, this shows that we don't know what we're doing. We're crazy. We don't have the proper realization. We don't think that the Lord alone is the way to liberation. If we show that the Lord alone is the way to liberation, then we're not mad. That's the true knowledge, like that. So here he's saying rejected upayas are, this doing karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, doing property again. What's the other thing? Doing property again, being forced to do things because of rajas and tamas, all these different things. I like the stumbling around of a madman. You'll never reach the goal that way. That is rejected. Those are rejected means. A madman is defined as one who has a mental delusion. And this is a quote from Amarakosha. Amarakosha, kosha means a dictionary. There was a person called Amarasena who wrote a dictionary in verse form in Sanskrit. And he's giving a definition, and the definition is unmadas chitta vibramaha. That means a madman is defined as somebody with a mental delusion. So suppose one has such a delusion, one who has such a delusion travels along some path without any idea of going anywhere in particular. If the path leads to a certain place, he will arrive there. In the same way, right, might it be that these things done out of fear of the world's scorn, etc., even without the idea that they are sadhanas, are to be included with the rejected upayas? So this is a question. Somebody might travel along a path, even unexpectedly, he might get to the place where he actually wants to get, right? By going blindly. Choose door number 2. Oh, I got the right door. I've gone to the right destination, right? So that's the question. The question is, even without the idea that these are sadhanas, somehow or other, right, are these to be included as rejected upayas? Because somebody might, a madman might actually find his destination. It's possible, right? So isn't it possible that somebody might attain liberation through karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, or through doing some of these other things, or doing property twice? Isn't it possible? There is no need to wonder about this, right? There is no need to wonder whether these things are rejected, right? That is, they are certainly to be included in rejected. They are rejected upayas. There is no need to wonder about this. That is, they are certainly to be included as rejected upayas, as rejected means to liberation, even if one performs them primarily out of compassion. Even if you do something, to show other people and a good example, these too will have their results. Just as a lump of dirt thrown high will not remain in the air, right? If you throw something up in the air, it's going to come down. What goes up comes down, right? So just as surely as what goes up comes down, similarly, if you do these things, even if you do them out of compassion for other people like that, these upayas will act as sadhanas, or it will act as upayas. They will be against the first line of the Charma Sloka, in which you said you would completely give up those things. Even if you say, I'm only doing them out of compassion. You have to do them. If you have to do them at all, you have to do them with the mentality of Sattvika Tyaga, that they are completely done by the Lord himself and not by you, right? And you have to constantly remind yourself of that. Otherwise, you will be captured by the pride of doing these things. Therefore, these must also be referred to by the word papa, or sin. And this is a quote from Tanicharamam, page 147. Thus, Pilla Lokacharya has revealed in his Tanicharamam. So he has 18, Pilla Lokacharya has 18 different books about the esoteric meaning of these different mantras, these important mantras, right? And the one called Tanicharamam, he's quoting here. Be that as it may, what is the fault of doing property again? So people are still confused. Manavala Mamuni says, look, he just said doing property again, doing property twice is to be rejected. It's a wrong thing. It's a wrong idea. It's part of papa. It's a sin, actually, like that. So then he wants to make it absolutely sure that you understand this. To surrender to the Lord twice is wrong. Right? So he says, text 253, even property done in confusion with the idea that it is an upaya is equivalent to a sin. Even if we don't understand property, we don't understand actually what is surrendered to the Lord, and we do it out of confusion with the idea that it is a means, is equivalent to a sin. Is equivalent to a sin. What to speak of doing it twice like that, right? So we just said doing it twice is a sin. Doing it even once with that mentality is a sin. Property does not tolerate repeated performance. It is done once and for all. Property done again, or surrender done again, by one confused or ignorant of its nature, with the idea that it is a means to get rid of what is unwanted, staying here in this material world, and to attain the desire, going to moksha, going to liberation, is equivalent to an offense, just like the other upayas. This is the southern school of Sri Vaishnavism, the Tengalai Sri Vaishnavas, right? Especially they look at these other means, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, performing pious activities, whatever it is, all these things, performing pious activities out of compassion to show other people, an example, a good example for sons and disciples, or for family members, for other people in society, out of loka sangraha, for the benefit of the whole world. These are all considered as sins. And even the performance of property with the mentality that it is an upaya. Property is not an upaya. We tell people that property is an upaya. We tell surrender to the Lord is the way to attain liberation. It's the means to attain liberation, but it is not actually property which is the means. It is the Lord himself which is the means, and not the property. not the surrender. The Lord himself is the means. Because if we say that property is the means, then people who don't do property, people who don't do it properly or don't do it with the right mentality, they will not attain the result. It's the Lord himself who is completely the only one who is important in the performance and the attaining of the goal of surrender, right? He is the only one which is important. Therefore, he says, Mam Ekam. The Tengalaya Acharyas, the southern school of Sri Vaishnavism, they emphasize Ekam. But he alone is the property. He is the means, not the property. He's the means. He's the upaya, like that. And not even property. And definitely not doing it twice. That's wrong. Right? So, so it is equivalent to an offense just like the other upayas, the other so-called upayas, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. As it is said, quote, since you are mortally afraid of sins, O Bharata, don't do those things you have given up and be devoted to Lord Narayana, Sriman Narayana. And this is a quote this is attributed to the Vishnu Dharma, chapter 66, verse 71. We can see Sutra or Churna number 201 and note above. Perhaps because of the context and because Pila Lokacharya has already established that egoistic, self-initiated refuge seeking, right, or surrender to the Lord, which is egoistic, right, egotistic or egoistic and or self-initiated refuge is a sin in Churna or Sutra 230. Manavala Mamuni limits the reference to this Churna, this sutra, to Purnaha property, to property which is done again. Property performed subsequent to one's original Sharanagati or property, one's original surrender. Here, Manavala Mamuni underlines his difference with Vedanta Deshika, or the northern school, the Wadagalai school, and the Wadagalai school, right, who perform property again as a prayaschita for any subsequent deliberate sin. So, in the northern school of Sri Vaishnavas, this is the difference. They say they do property. After they do property, if they have deliberately committed sin after they do property, they do another property. They call that prayaschita property, like that. So now, even if you talk to them, they'll say this is not another property, and they'll have some other idea about it. But according to Manavala Mamuni and the southern schools, the Pila Lokacharya and Manavala Mamuni, according to the Tengalaya Acharyas, this is another property, and this is forbidden. This is sinful. This is wrong. This is just as wrong as taking to Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, which also wrong means to liberation. The only true means to liberation, according to the southern school of Sri Vaishnavism, is to accept the Lord himself, Mam Ekam, as the means. Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. He is to be surrendered to only him, and no other means. There is no other means. Right. So, let's see, before we go to Moksha Yishami, Sarvadama Pritaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tva Sarva Papepyo. Right, now we come to Moksha Yishami, but before we do, we're going to go to Divyanangacharya and see what he says at the end of this. Like we may have, I'm not sure whether we've got up to that point. So, it is shown that even those acts that are done without thought, that they are the means. Even if we do some acts and we're not thinking that they are the upaya, we're not thinking that those acts themselves are the means. We perform some efforts, but we don't think that those are the means. We still think Sriman Narayana is the only means. We'll be associated with those acts that are done as means. Everyone else will look at us and they will say, oh, he's doing Bhakti Yoga, he's doing Karma Yoga, he's doing Jnana Yoga, he's doing property again and again and again. Right? They'll see us doing it. Externally, they'll see us doing it and they'll think like that and they'll be confused, right? And we'll also be confused. We'll also think that that needs to be done as well as that single surrender to the Lord and making the Lord the only means, right? So we can become fooled, others can become fooled, by doing these other things are all classed as sins. Sarvapapebhyo. If the person who has lost his mind takes a path that leads to a certain place without knowing where he is going, due to the association between the path and the place, it will still take him there. So even a madman, if he somehow or other picks the right door or picks the right road, he will get to the destination. Similarly, these acts done due to fear of this world will also lead to association with those that are performed as means, right? So if we act like even if we act like a madman without thinking and do something like that, it still will be seen as doing that thing, as an upaya. Therefore, they are referred to by the word papa, or sin. And similarly, he says, it is said now that repetition of surrender is also included in the word papa. So what have we understood from Sarva Papa? What have we understood by the word papa? Usually when we say papa, we look it up in the dictionary, it just means sin. It means sin, the reaction to sin. We understood, first of all, that it's not just sin, but it's also punya. It's also pious activities. All those things have to be added, right? It's both sins and pious activities. What also has to be added? Then we went through the list of all the different pious activities, all the different types of sinful activities, past, present, future, innocent, unknowing, a little bit knowing, completely deliberate, all these different types of sins and pious activities. Then we understood, right, that papa also includes other upayas, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, according to the Tengalai Sri Vaishnavas, the southern school of Sri Vaishnavism. It also includes any other means, any other sadhanas, right, like that. Then we also understood that even if we're doing it as an example for other people, we may get pride in our mind. And that pride is also a sin. And therefore, when we do anything, we have to do it with a strict mentality of sattvika tyaga, that the Lord himself is working through us and it's not us. We're not doing that thing like that. Otherwise, we'll become attached to that surrender or that particular activity that we're doing, good activity, spiritual activity like that. And therefore, we'll think that that is the upaya, and that is a sin. That mentality is a sin. That action and that mentality is a sin, right? And then on top of that, he says, even doing property, even the first time when we do property and we don't really understand what property is, and we surrender to the Lord, and we think the surrender is the thing. The surrender is the upaya. No, the surrender isn't the upaya. What to speak of doing it again and again, like the Vadagalai Sri Vaishnavas, the northern school of Sri Vaishnavas, they do it again and again. They think, I did property, but then I committed a mistake. Unknowingly I did a sin, or even knowingly I did a sin. I did on purpose, I did a sin even after I surrendered to the Lord. Therefore, I have to do it again and again, like that. That also is a sin. This is all included by the Tengalai Sri Vaishnavas, by the Southern School Acharyas, teachers of Sri Vaishnavism, as sin. So when Arjuna says, or when Krishna says, when Lord Krishna says, Sarva Papebhyo, that is what he means. He means all sins. So we have given an elaborate explanation of what sin means. An elaborate explanation of what sin means here, right? So the act of surrender can be done only once. Its nature does not tolerate repetition. Repetition means doing it again and again, like that, thinking that I have to do it again and again, is the same as thinking that I have to do karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. I have to do so many things. I have to set an example for others. I have to do all these sort of things. I have to do elaborate sadhana so that others will see me. And this is wrong. All of this is wrong. It's all sin, like that. Without realizing that, repeating the act of surrender for gaining something or removing an obstacle is equivalent to a sinful act. So the Tengalai Sri Vaishnava Acharyas are saying here, the idea of prayaschitta property, of doing property a second time, surrendering to the Lord a second time, even if you committed a deliberate sinful act after property, even if you committed an unknowing sinful act after property, right? Even if you want to show an example to other people, right, about property, like that. That is a deliberate, sinful act, and property does not tolerate that because its nature is only once. Lord Rama in his Charma Sloka says, Sakrit Eva, once only. That is not a suggestion. That is an order by Lord Rama. It is not a suggestion. He's not suggesting that you surrender once only to him. He is saying you must surrender only once. Sakrideva prapannaya tavasmiti chayachate abhayam sarvabhute vyo vidamye tad vatam mama. That is my vow that I vouchsafe and I will protect. I promise to protect from all dangers, from all living beings, or of all living beings. I protect all living beings or from all dangers, from all living beings. It can mean both, right? That person who says, I am yours, tavasmi, only once, who comes to that mental understanding. What do we say in the word vraja in the Charma Sloka? The word vraja, which actually means to go, it has a grammatical meaning of mental understanding, to go to in the mind. So the mental understanding that we surrender to God, that God is the upaya, God is the actual means, God is the only means. The Supreme Personality of God, Lord Krishna, Sriman Narayana, is the only means. He is the only means of our liberation. That itself, Sakrideva, is done once only. If at all we think about doing something because we committed a sin knowingly or unknowingly or purposefully even, after we've thought of that, we can again remember that we did surrender. And we can remember that with great faith, Mahavishvasha, we can remember that he will save us. We can feel confident that he will save us. But we can't do it again. We can't surrender again because surrender doesn't tolerate that. That system, the Lord does not tolerate that because that is, he doesn't tolerate you losing that faith. Once you have that faith that the Lord alone will save you, how can you give it up and ask him again to save you? Right? It's like you're being saved and you're asking the Lord, will you save me? Of course, I'm saving you. He's saving you. He is saving you. He will save you. Of course he will save you. You need not ask again. Your asking again means you have doubt. You have to give up that doubt. You have to have Mahavishvasha. You have to have great faith that he will save you. That's how property works. So, but you have to do it once. You only have to do it once. And he takes that as an excuse and he saves you. Sakrit Eva is not optional. Lord Rama says, Sakrit Eva, once only. Eva means only. Sakrit means once. Once only. That is an order by Lord Rama, like that. So that should also be understood. If we understand the Rama Charma Sloka, the Vraha Charma Sloka, these other mantras, with the Krishna Charma Sloka, we can understand fully the deep meaning that the Tingalayacharys have brought from Sarvarama Pritija, Mamikam Sharam Puja. Aham Twa, Sarva Papebhyo. Now we've finished the third line, the half of the last half of the Charma Sloka. All that is left now is Moksha Yishami Masu Chaha. We have 3 more words and we finish the whole verse. So I think this is a good place to end. Okay, next time we will take up the word Moksha Yishyami, which is a future tense, and it means I will take you to moksha. I will give you liberation. So what is the meaning of that? We'll take up next time. So are there any questions by anybody about today's lecture? You can ask about anything, but today's lecture is about twa, the meaning of the word you, and sarva papebhyo, which is divided up into sarva means all, papa means sin. So what does it mean, all sins? What does all mean? What does sins mean? And ebhyaha also is an elaboration to show us that there are many, many varieties of sins, right? So twa, sarva papebhyo, that was covered today.
I find it so astounding, how it says that even if you associate yourself with doing any of these activities too much, that it's like really revolutionary. It's like, I don't know, amazing. As you said,
too much of a good thing. Too much of a good thing is a sin. Right? So property is a perfect way. Surrender to the Lord is a perfect way, but too much of this is a sin. Property itself becomes a sin if you think of it to do it repeatedly. If you think to do it with ego, if you're doing it simply, if you're doing it for showing other people the way or something like that, it's so subtle. It's so subtle, the idea of sin here, like that. We think when we tell people don't sin, Krishna says don't sin, like that. I think, oh, okay, don't do it. Lead a good life. It means lead a good life.
And the other amazing point is to do, just the bare minimum of dharma, just to set that little bit of example. Because I was mentioning and I was discussing that with one family today about, doing the Pitri Tarpanas, and she was saying that in ISKCON they're taught not to worship anyone else except Krishna, so they shouldn't do Pitri, Puja, and things like that. And I was saying, I like the Sri Vaishnava stance, which is you do it as an example for others, and because God asked you to do it also in the scriptures.
Right.
But still, just like we were talking the other day about doing 108 Gayatris or 1008 Gayatris, the thing is, as I say, for Pandas, it's very difficult to get that motivation to do any of these things. And I could see where it comes from even more now.
Right. Right.
Anyway,
right. We just have to be careful. It's not that we can't do those things. We can do whatever's there in the scriptures. We can do, and we can do them elaborately also like that. But we have to keep the mentality of Sattvika Tyaga, that the Lord is doing it all through us. If He wants to do it like that,
Mom,